Crossbow. The little brother of the bow, think Robin Hood, not girls in pigtails, the crossbow was slower but more powerful. It derived as a further development of the former. In other words, he used the elasticity of the most ubiquitous natural material, wood, to shoot sharpened pieces of hatred at enemies. The foundational mechanism of any crossbow is obviously to keep a taut string. This allows the muscle to not be strained in the process, which is pretty characteristic of humans. First, you throw rocks and darts yourself, then you use compressed wood for a more comfortable throw, bows. Then you come up with a mechanism for loading and releasing a string, crossbows. Then you think of using explosive power to launch a projectile, firearms. And then, apparently, you just press a button to turn on a manual combat laser, which in essence is a remote control for destroying other living things. Very convenient. But while the bow was invented around 60 to 70,000 years ago, the first crossbows only came about a few centuries BC. Quite a long time, of course, for humanity to come up with such a seemingly simple mechanism. But I don't blame the people of the past. I can't even build an automatic farm in Minecraft without a guide. Most people associate crossbows with the Middle Ages or with fantasy stories. I mean, the Middle Ages with elves. But actually, this invention comes from antiquity. You know, the one with ancient Greeks, Romans, and of course Chinese. If the idea of crossbow-wielding men next to Roman legionaries and Greek hoplites surprises you, then just wait until I tell you about the most ancient crossbows. You might be in for even more of a surprise because they vary quite a bit from what we're used to. The first crossbows were invented independently in two regions. In China, around the 2nd century BC, and even earlier, in the 5th century BC in ancient Greece, specifically in Syracuse. Yeah, birthplace of the famous Archimedes, inventor of tons of different devices, but not crossbows. He was a few centuries after that. The Greek crossbow was called the gastrophis and had not only a trigger mechanism but also an interesting loading system. To tighten the string of the gastrophis, you had to lean a special retractable bar in the ground and press against the end of the crossbow with your stomach. That's why the literal translation of its name is abdominal bow. The strangest part about it was the retractable bar. Nothing like I've ever seen in the loading systems of crossbows from other periods. I don't even know why they didn't think of the simpler solution of a bill hook, which attaches to the string and allows the wearer to load the crossbow by extending their leg. But I like that somewhere in my childhood I saw an ad on TV for a sit-up bench with the same exact working principle. I mean, these Greeks with their obsession with sports, they didn't just come up with the Olympics, they also used workout equipment when fighting. And I don't know if the gastrophis was uncomfortable or if there was no plate armor in antiquity that required a more powerful weapon than the bow to penetrate. But I've never seen information about the mass use of gastrophis in battle, despite the fact that the long Greco-Persian wars were going on at the time the Greeks invented it. And then there were the Crusades of Alexander the Great. Rightly so though, workout equipment isn't for battle. Or maybe it's because the Greeks created fake six-packs in their bronze body armor so they didn't have to do sit-ups during battle. Nevertheless, I like gastrophis. What an original. Once again, the ancient Greeks were ahead of their time. The next strange, but cool strange, antique crossbow was invented in the second crossbow superpower China and was called Chu-Ku-Nu. Chu-Ku-Nu was essentially a repeating crossbow with an unbelievably fast shooting speed for the type of weapon, compared to that of the common bow, with an original string tension mechanism resembling giant scissors. Many of you may have seen something similar to the Chu-Ku-Nu in the anime Berserk, but not everyone is willing to admit that they watch anime. The mass implementation of Chu-Ku-Nu in the army is attributed to the Chinese commander of the Three Kingdoms period, Zhu Qi-Liang. There's also information that under him, Chu-Ku-Nu were made that could shoot 2 or even 3 bolts at the same time. What? A crossbow shotgun? It's not surprising that with this level of crossbow game, the Chinese used Chu-Ku-Nu in real wars even as late as the end of the 19th century. Meanwhile, nothing resembling Chu-Ku-Nu was invented in other regions of the world. The third and original crossbow, if it can be called that, was used by the ancient Romans. Actually, Basically, mechanical throwing machines are based on three principles: elasticity, usually of wood or steel, use of gravity in the form of a counterweight, like in medieval trebuchet, and the most powerful and modern torsion machines, which use the elastic force of twisted fibers, which are assisted by a special physical magic to straighten out, sending projectiles and disrespect towards the enemies. It's interesting that the torsion machines were a know-how of the Roman Empire, since after its fall, they ceased to be used in any region of the world. However, the Romans perfected torsion weapons to the level that, according to some sources, they even had handheld torsion weapons, manu ballista, which translates to hand ballista. However, they weren't that simple either. Some historians believe that the Roman handheld weapons were based exclusively on the principle of elasticity. The manu ballista was a larger stationary weapon after all. In fact, the Romans really had more traditional crossbows, which were called arquebulistae, bow ballista, whose name led to the name for crossbows in some European languages, for example, French. Basically, it's a dark history, so decide for yourself. Personally, I like to think that the Romans had hand weapons of unseen power, but it's possible that I have lied to you, which means, once again, you haven't learned anything new. In any case, I could use a like and subscription. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.